Hello, my yarny friends. I'm Sara Sach. Welcome back to another edition of This or That, and sometimes the other thing. Well, today is number 3 in our series of reading our yarn labels. And I hope that you've learned some things. I know I have. You know, I've been crocheting for 50 years. And anyway, there's still so many things that we can learn, even though we've been crocheting for maybe a really long time. It never hurts to have a refresher course on these things. All right, so we talked about all of these different symbols that are on our yarn labels. And then we talked about these last week. And I'm gonna go over some of this again today, just because I have some additional information. I looked up some other things, just wanted to clarify a couple of things on there. And so we're going to be talking about that as well. Now, remember, I love to read your comments. So please comment. I love your opinions, even if we don't agree, because remember, yarn is an ever-growing, changing, wonderful art, and we all have different opinions on the way we do things, or what's our favorite way to do things, or things we don't want to do, you know. We all have our own opinions on those. There are no wrong answers on here, okay? But I think it's really important that we do give our opinions and we talk about it, because we can learn from each other. I can learn from you, and we can all learn from each other. All right, so today's topic is, what do these all mean? People get confused about what all these measurements and weights are, and we're going to talk about that today. So you picked up a ball or skein of yarn, and you see all these measurements or weights. 349 yards, 320 meters, 7 ounces, 200 grams. Well, what does that mean exactly? And what those measurements pertain to is this one skein or ball of yarn, okay? In other words, your yards and meters is your length. How long is it? Your ounces and grams are the weight of it. Well, let's say you want to know how much this weighs. And this is what I call my handy dandy scale. All right, so on here it says it weighs 7 ounces. All right, so I have it on. I'm going to put this on here. It says 7.5 ounces. All right, so it's pretty accurate. Not bad. But what does that really tell us? All right, let's move these out of the way. And let's just talk about this one ball of yarn. All right, so this is Premier Puzzle Cotton. It's one of my favorite yarns to work with. It's very soft and squishy. Okay, now, this one ball of yarn is 349 yards long. That's the length of the yarn. And then they give it to you in metric, which is 320 meters. That tells you how much length this one ball of yarn has. Okay, then we have 7 ounces or 200 grams. This is how much this ball of yarn approximately weighs. Now, it's important to understand that that's approximate, and usually you get more, like on that one, it's 7.5 opposed to just the 7 ounces. And usually you do get a little bit more because they're done by machines. They're wound by machines. So your yards are probably a little bit longer as well if you were to measure it. Okay? And a lot of people get confused on what these weights are, because you also have the weights. Well, there they are. They're real tiny on here. Actually, they're on this side. Medium 4. Okay? And they're like, well, if medium 4 is the yarn weight, what are these weights? And so the 4 is the thickness of the yarn, how thick it is. Okay? So this is a medium 4 thick yarn. There are 349 yards long, and this one skein measures 7 ounces. A lot of times when you read a pattern, it'll say 20 ounces and it'll give you the yards as well. And that's just telling you approximately it needs to weigh this and be this length. All right, these measurements can be a little bit confusing, especially when we get a yarn weight here as well. Again, just to review what I just said, just in case, the medium 4 weight yarn is the thickness of the yarn. The yards or meters is the length of this one skein or ball of yarn. The 7 ounces or the 200 grams is how much this one ball of yarn weighs approximately. So I hope that answered some of your questions. On most of the patterns that I write, I try to do ounces and yards. I don't always put the yards on there, but I do try to always put the ounces and the yards. Patterns that are written that are from what we call the English style or European style, they use that in Australia as well. They go by the meters and the grams. And that's okay. If you get a pattern and it calls for meters and grams, just go on Google and say, how many ounces is 200 grams? Or how many yards is 300 meters? Or vice versa. Okay, and you'll be able to get that figured out. Remember, Google is our friend, and any other search engine is your friend because it gives you the answers to really simple questions and math. Because I'm telling you, math is hard. You know, there's people who love math. My granddaughter that's 12, she loves math. I do not, and I never knew that I was going to be using math as much as I am today. Now, I did want to discuss one more topic having to do with last week's symbols. Okay, and here's the symbols that we had. And we had this P, and we're like, what does that have to do with dry cleaning? And we thought maybe it meant professional dry cleaning. Let me take you over to this other graph. So I went online. I went to where they have all the garment district symbols because they apply to yarn as well. Because when we crochet or knit with yarn or weave with yarn, we're making what you would call fabric. All right. And so I pulled this up so that we could understand this box right here and what this is all about, how to dry clean your fibers. Okay. And this will help you if you want to pull this off. It's just put in dry cleaning symbols garment district, I think is what I put in my search engine. And so this is what they mean. When you dry clean, if it has an A, you can use any solvent. And this is something you'll have to ask if you take it in to be dry cleaned. The P stands for any solvent except trichlor, which is TCE. And I looked that up of what that is. And let me read to you what that says. It says trichlor or TCE is a colorless, volatile, and non-flammable liquid chemical with a sweet odor. It is primarily used as an industrial solvent for degreasing metals and removing stains. So this would work for removing stains or grease spills. Okay, so that's good to know. This one, if it has an F on there, you can use a petroleum solvent. Petroleum is oil, just FYI. This one says, as an X on the circle, do not dry clean. Just like on these, there were X's on these. Do not iron, okay? Then this one has a circle with a line under it. Delicate, consult a professional dry cleaner. So if it has this symbol and you've made a blanket or something, check with the person who's going to do your dry cleaning to see if that what they're using for their solvent or their cleaner will work. Okay, and then these are to tell you how long they can be washed. Short cycle, reduced moisture, low heat, or no steam finishing. And this is a really good idea to go and copy this off and keep it handy, because that's a symbol that we don't look at on our yarn very often. Okay, I'm going to pull this one up. It's going to be really small, so I'm going to try to get it up here. But see how this one has the round circle with an X? It looks like this one. Do not dry clean this, okay? And this is really good to know, because when we're making something for someone and we want to give them the label, they may not know what these things mean, you know, that we have on here. They probably don't know what those mean. And so, you know, I mean, they're kind of obvious. Washing, you know, lay flat to dry. They might be obvious, but if a person doesn't know much about dry cleaning or how to take care of yarn, it's good to let them know that it's okay if they want to dry clean it using, you know, which symbol it goes with, or if they should lay flat to dry, things like that. I know we discussed the dry cleaning a little bit last week, but I wanted to go over this again because I wanted to clarify what that particular square meant, you know, with the P. Okay? But any of the symbols that are on these, any of the symbols, you'll find reference to these if you Google and look in the garment district symbols, because there are tons of symbols that we use, because like I said, when we crochet a blanket or when we crochet a hat or scarf, we're making a garment or material or fabric. Okay, and it will need to be cleaned maybe eventually. And so it's good to know how to wash it. And like I said, when you give it to somebody, how they can take care of it. So I hope that I have answered the dry cleaning question for you, because after watching that video again that I put out there, I thought, you know, I wasn't very clear on that particular subject. And it is an important subject because, like I said, we're making garments, we're making fabric, and we have to know how to care for it. Okay? And then also understanding the yards and the meters and the ounces and the grams, and how that applies to one skein of yarn opposed to several, and the difference between the yarn weight that's here and the yarn weights that are here. All right. Now next week we're going to talk about what's called WPI, wraps per inch. And this is used when you don't know what the weight, which would be the thickness of the yarn is. And we're going to talk about what that is and have you ever used it sort of thing. It's not difficult, but you are going to need a ruler. So next Wednesday, we're going to talk about what is WPI and have you ever used it. And it's a really good technique in determining the thickness of our yarn. All right? So, and also, you know, I showed you how to weigh it to know how much it weighs. Remember, when they roll their yarns and their skeins, they almost always give you more yarn than what it says. It has been true as far as I can remember. And a lot of I have my that's an actual mailing scale so that I can weigh what I mail. And so it is accurate. But if you want to get one, they'll mail you one from the post office, or you can pick one up at just about any store anymore. But it's a good idea to have one of those around just to help you, you know, sort of know. Let's say you have 10 skeins of yarn and one of them looks like you used a little bit of it, but you can't remember and you want to make sure you have enough. You can always weigh it, you know, and see how much you have left. Okay, and so it's good. It's a good handy dandy tool to have around. All right, so that's our video today. Yarn weights, yarn weights, yarn weights. Now remember, I love to hear your comments, your thoughts on these subjects. And again, if there's ever a question that you need answered, I will try to answer it. Well, referring to yarn and crochet and things like that. Don't ask me again why the sky is blue and why the grass is green. Because God made it that way, and that's the way it grows. So anyway, ask me any questions about yarn and crochet and stitches and things like that. And I would do my very best. If I don't know the answer, I will try to find you one. Now remember, I have a playlist for all of our this and that questions. So you can go to the main page, my main YouTube channel page, the front cover there, and there's a little tab at the top that says playlists. You can click that, And all the playlists will come up and you can find the this and that. Or you can find any of my playlists. Go through and check out all my patterns. I have well over 1,200 patterns videos out there now. And so there's lots to choose from. And most of the time when someone asks me if I've done something, I almost always have a video for it. So have some fun going through my playlists. Have some fun looking through all the this and that questions. And again, if you have any questions concerning yarn and things, I will do my best to try to find you an answer. So comment, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye now.